stand up and to be counted, to go out there and do the work that wins elections, that ensures that we win political power so that we can right these wrongs and do better by and for each and every single one of us. I'm here tonight because I so admire what John Mark Hogue and Kat and this team have put together, the Panhandle area Democrats as well, our host, the chairman from Potter and Randall counties, and every one of you who has come from every one of these 134 counties. I'm sure a lot right here in Amarillo, Texas. You give me, and by extension, this state, so much hope, and so much inspiration, and so much encouragement at the moment that we needed it most. These have been among the darkest of days to be in America. Even more so if you live in the state of Texas and in these rural communities that have been under siege and left behind for so long by those in positions of public trust. It is especially difficult. I was thinking about this last night. We came to Amarillo by way of North Texas, and we got into North Texas late last night. In fact, we were coming in with 5 minutes to go before the Salt Grass Grill was about to close. It was the only place that was open. And we go in and we say, hey, any chance we can get a table? And they said, of course. And they sat us and we ordered. And the server comes up to me and he says, you're Beto, right? I said, I am. And he said, because I'm from El Paso. And if you're from El Paso, you immediately ask what high school the other person went to. So the way we kind of sniff each other out. We connected. I said, tell me what you're doing up here in North Texas and in Dallas. And he said, you know what? I couldn't find a job in El Paso. I've got 2 degrees. I love that town. My folks are there, my brother, my sister is there, my culture is there, my identity is there. But I'm here because working at the Saltgrass Grill and then driving an Uber after hours on the weekends, I make far more money. There's far more opportunity for me here than there would be back home. And I'm making an appeal right now to you, John Mark, that if you make this the 135 pack, you add El Paso into that. Because the story I heard from him last night is the story that I've heard throughout rural Texas. Folks who want to be able to stay in Plainview. They want to be able to stay in San Angelo. They want to be able to stay in Dalhart and Pampa and Childress, but they just can't find the opportunity because the state has not partnered with them and made the investment and believed in them and met them halfway to ensure that we can get this done. But I tell you what, the answer to that young man's problems, and the question in my mind, with 3 kids that Amy and I are raising in El Paso, Texas right now, who I wonder whether, when they graduate from high school and maybe go on to college, do they come back to this community? Do they help to improve where we raise them, where they are the 5th generation of O'Rourke's to have lived there? Or do they also move to Dallas, or Chicago, or London, or Mexico City, or somewhere far beyond? How are we going to keep them at home? In other words, how do we meet this challenge of disinvestment and lost opportunity in rural Texas at the same time that we meet the larger challenge of this country, everything that we care about on the line and under attack right now? I argue the answer is going to be found in those who are here in this room. Let me give you some examples. Early in this campaign, we drove into Stanford, Texas. Many of you may have been there, some might not have. It is a little town in Jones County. It used to have 6,000 people who lived there in the year of our Lord, 1950. Today, it's a little over 2,900. People cannot find opportunity in that town. But they've got this extraordinary young mayor named James Decker, who chose to move back to that town after he finished law school because he believes in Stanford. He wanted to raise his family there. That's where he was going to plant his flag. And hell or high water, he was going to give it everything he had to make sure that that town could come through. Now listen, I don't know if the guy is a Democrat or a Republican. I didn't ask. No me importa. It does not matter. All he cares about is making sure that his community can come forward. They're trying to rebuild the water system in that town and trying to repave the streets that have not seen a paving truck in some cases in years or even decades. He's trying to reopen the public pool that had been closed down. I asked him, Mayor, in one sentence, what is your vision for the people in the community of Stanford, Texas? He said, Beto, this community must thrive and provide opportunity equally for all. Now think about that. What Republican, what Democrat, what independent, who among us could argue with that as a goal or an aspiration? I think that very well defines our values. But how can you thrive? And how can we find equal opportunity for all? If you're a woman in that town and you can't make your own healthcare decisions about your body or your future, if you're gay and the legislature says they're going to pass a Don't Say Gay bill next year, or if you're the parent of a transgender child and you face arrest for child abuse and having that child taken from your loving home and turned over to Child Protective Services, the worst run foster care program in the nation, bar none, which has lost the lives of 100 kids since the year 2010. How can this guy get ahead? How can his community thrive if we don't do better in the top positions in this state? So I don't know if the guy is going to vote for me. I certainly haven't asked for his endorsement, but he's counting on me. He's counting on all of us to come through so his community can come through, so he can retain some of that local control that one of our political parties used to talk about, and our current state government has stripped from local leaders like Mayor Decker. Reminds me of another great local leader. This is in Pecos County, one of the 134 that we're talking about right now, Judge Joe Schuster. When I was in his community at the Dickey's Barbecue, run by a recent Indian immigrant who is a vegetarian, who doesn't eat anything that he serves there. Great Texas story. We are talking about Medicaid and Medicare, and just the ability to see a doctor or fill a prescription in a state where people still die of the flu, of diabetes, of curable cancers, because we are the least insured in the United States of America, a state where, in Pecos County, the #1 provider of mental health care services is the county jail. You have too many people with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, clinical depression, trying to get arrested on purpose to be taken to the one place where they are guaranteed any care at all. I said, Judge, what the hell are we going to do to fix this? He said, I've got an answer for you. Right here in rural Texas, we're one of the most medically underserved parts of the United States of America. So we have to devise our own plan, our own goals, and put in the hard work to implement them. Let me give you an example. And he turns to this young man named Alden Velasquez, who grew up, graduated from Fort Stockton High School, went away to college, but couldn't afford medical school. It's his dream to become a doctor. The judge made a deal with him. He said, the taxpayers here in Pecos County will pay for your medical school tuition, room and board, all your costs, and we have a matching grant then at the time from the state of Texas. And for the price of medical school education, the return deal is that you come back here and practice medicine for 6 years. You serve this community that is raised and provided for you. Well, the kicker was, I was talking to him in his 8th year back in Fort Stockton. He'd married a young woman from that community. They were raising their kids there. They were replanting roots and making sure that community could thrive and have the medical care that should be our birthright as Americans, certainly as Texans, and definitely if you live in rural Texas in Pecos County. Now think about what that guy is up against right now. A governor who refuses to take yes for an answer or expand Medicaid. We're one of the last states to fail to do that. Waiting on a table somewhere in Washington, D.C. is $10 billion of your federal tax money that you paid up there that is going to go to some other state until we elect a governor who will bring that money down, spend it in these rural communities, prop up these 24 rural hospitals that have closed down over the last 10 years, and make sure that every Texan is connected with the care that allows them to live and be well enough to fulfill their true advantage, their promise, and their potential. We can do that if we win this race. That's leadership from Judge Schuster. That was vision from Mayor Decker.
I saw the value of investment in rural Texas when I was in Briscoe County, in a town called Silverton, at the library, holding a town hall meeting, and I was about to do what you expect every Democrat to do when they show up in a rural community, and that is talk about broadband internet. I mean, we do it because it's important, we do it because it hasn't get done, but shit, if I lived in a rural community, and for the last 10 years people have been talking about broadband internet, and there was no broadband internet, I'd be a little pissed off. So this guy interrupts me before I can finish the sentence. He says, hold on. I was in first grade, he told me, in 1936, when Congressman Lyndon Baines Johnson worked with President Franklin Delano Roosevelt on something known as the Rural Electrification Administration. The year was 1936. They wired my town for light. They met us halfway. There was no handout. There was no giveaway. There was no charity involved. We did this honorably. We formed a cooperative. The federal government and the state government put in, and I was able, in the first grade, to read by electric light at night and to do homework, just like the kids in the big cities across this planet. He said, you don't know, Beto, what that did to me in terms of my confidence and self-esteem and what I thought I could do and what would be possible for me down the road. He said, I want you, as governor, to make that same kind of commitment to these communities. Don't worry about us. Don't patronize us. Don't tell us you're going to ride to the rescue and save the day. Meet us halfway. And when we come up with a solution for the needs that we have for our young kids that we're raising here, you make sure that you're at the table with us. Well, what this guy's up against right now is a governor who's vetoed the Universal Service Fund. And you all probably know this. It's what subsidizes rural telephone and internet bills, just like the REA did for electricity back in the 1930s. So if you live in a rural community now, your combined telephone and internet bill has gone up anywhere from $25 to $100 a month. That is on top of the fact that thanks to the governor who could not keep the lights on in the energy capital of the world, your electricity bill has gone up on average $45 to $50 a month. Greg Abbott, the single greatest driver of inflation in rural Texas and across the state. When we win this election, we're restoring the Universal Service Fund. We're extending that broadband internet. We're going to invest in the infrastructure that our rural communities need so that they can thrive, be the environment that creates the opportunities, the jobs, the possibilities for young people to come back to or stay in the place that raised them in the first place. Which brings me to my last city. And it's a city that I'm traveling to tonight. We'll be on the road for about 3.5 hours after this event, going to Roscoe, Texas. I've got one person who knows where Roscoe, Texas is, and it's Susan Hayes. Nope. We got a few here. So you know, because maybe you're from there, that Roscoe High is the home of the Plow Boys and the Plow Girls. And I'm there doing a town hall meeting for a senior high school classroom. And I know John Mark will like this. This is the first question someone asked. You all can probably predict this. So, Mr. O'Rourke, what's your deal with AR-15s and AK-47s? And this kid says, I need these on my ranch to shoot the feral hogs. They're an invasive species, and they're just driving us crazy. And I'm kind of summoning up my answer, but before I can, his teacher says, son, if you needed an AR-15 to kill that hog, you are a worse shot than I thought you were to begin with. We go on to have this great conversation. You know, the kid laughs, I laugh. We realize that we actually have a lot more in common than separates us. These values that we're talking about right now. He just wants to be able to get ahead. He wants to be able to do all right, and he wants to be able to stay in Roscoe, Texas, the town in which he was raised. And I learned that because of the leadership in rural Texas, he's going to be able to do just that. Now, if you're familiar with Roscoe and Sweetwater in this part of Texas, the sky is defined by these wind turbines. We produce more wind in this state than does any other in the Union. And I'm proud of that. But in Roscoe, that means that these ranches and farms that might have had to, in another time, be sold off or subdivided or turned into strip malls can stay in the family because that wind turbine provides a new revenue stream for that family. That means they can pass it on to the next generation and the generation following. Those families can keep their roots in that community and in that county. But it also means that it has significantly deepened the tax base in Roscoe. So much so that the Roscoe School District can guarantee that every child graduating from that high school that I went to will graduate not just with a high school diploma, but 2 years of college under their belt, an associate's degree, and some of them are going to graduate with an FAA remote pilot's license at the age of 18 because they need someone to do the remote inspections on those wind turbines in that community. It's this beautiful, virtuous cycle that has been created in a part of rural Texas. I guarantee the majority of those in the state capitol, the governor, the lieutenant governor, the agricultural commission, the controller that we have right now, they don't know that Roscoe even exists, much less that they are pointing the way forward for this state. If they did, then they would wise up to the fact that they're leading the way on public education in these communities and job opportunities going forward. If they listen to the folks in Roscoe, we'd start treating our teachers, our counselors, our librarians, the support staff, the folks who make public ed possible with the respect that they deserve, that they've earned, and that they are owed. We would start paying them enough so that they don't have to work a second or a third job to make ends meet. When they retire, we make sure there's a cost of living adjustment every single year because there hasn't been one for 19 years in the state of Texas so far. And we'd also do this, we would cancel the STAR test. So there's in these classes, let these young people focus on the things that will allow them to thrive, to succeed, to achieve their potential, live up to their true promise. Listen. These are the values not just of these 134 counties. These are the values of Texas. And I think they define us better than really any party affiliation, any religious difference, anything other that can be used to divide us right now at this moment. Because in these dark times, if anything, we need to find a way to come together. That gives me hope, gives me courage, and that gives me inspiration. It is the key to victory, and it is the antidote to despair. So this is what I ask of you. You're going to be able to realize the potential that I just described in just 4 of these 130 counties, and extend them to all 254 across the state of Texas. We've got to win elections up and down the ballot. It's got to be all of us so that everyone in this state can succeed. But it's not going to happen because of our political party. It won't happen because of the candidate at the top of the ticket, nor the candidate at the bottom of the ticket. This one has to be driven by the people in this room. Those 134 counties have never been in the calculus of anybody's win number or victory plan before. But I tell you right now, if we go out there and we meet our fellow Texans in these rural communities, where they are, whether that is at church, on the front porch of their home, in the gates to their ranch or their farm, and talk about these things, these Texas values that we have. Everyone able to achieve their potential and thrive. Supporting public education, making sure that we have great jobs, the ability to see a doctor, and to keep our hospitals open in our communities. We're going to find a lot of people who want to come to our side, who know that we're showing them the basic courtesy and respect of listening to them and fighting for them going forward. And I guarantee you this, on the night of November 8th, there'll be rural Texans from these 134 counties who provide the margin of victory when we win this thing. You all with me? Well, I'm with you. Thank you so much for having us out today. It is a huge honor. Congratulations to John Marks, Stuart, and the team. We love you all. We'll be back in Amarillo very, very soon.
Adios, los vemos. Buenas noches. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for our future governor,